I said I wasn't going to bang it like President Tammy always did. So, welcome everybody to the Rotary Club of Kerrville, my first full official meeting. If you would please silence your cell phones, but before you do so, check in on Facebook, let everybody know where we're at. That's one of our new goals, is to get as much publicity for the Noon Club as we can. I want to ask past District Governor Carol Holmes to come up and please for our prayer and invocation and pledge, who told me this a while ago. She goes, "I'm praying for you." And I said, "Well, thank you. I think I'm going to need it." She goes, "No, today." So, Carol, if you would please come up.
He's not my best friend, but he is my mortgage lender, so I have to be nice to him. Would you please bow your heads for prayer? Dear God, we thank you for bringing us safely to this beautiful day. Thank you for this Rotary Club and all that we do for this community. Please help us to focus on you when we go out through these activities. And bless the new Rotary leaders that we have, God, and direct them through the end of the year. Thank you so much for this food and for those that have prepared it. We pray in Christ's holy name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Carol. This time I'd like to ask if y'all would please. Oh, a song.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. It's a learning process.
Well, it is. Today, because of the program, no, stand. Yeah, particularly this one you got to do. Because this is the land of the free, because of the brave, we're going to sing America the Beautiful. So, oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty, above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Good job. Good job.
Now, if you would please be seated. Thank you, George. If I could please have Mr. Bryant Truitt come up and introduce our guest speakers today. Sorry, Bryant. Can't introduce him without that hat. No, I just. You got your shirt on.
Well, welcome, and it's going to be an interesting program today. I can guarantee it. Would like to introduce a couple of people, though, that are going to be involved in the program. And the first one is Heather Miller. Heather, she is Vice President of the Student Affairs at the University of Texas. And the gentleman sitting next to her is Jeremiah. He is in charge of the Veterans Program at the University of Texas and is director of the Student Veterans Services Department. And we're going to have a very interesting program today. And let's get started. Okay.
in management, retail, and various things, and just felt like, there's something bigger that I could do in this world than what I was doing, and helping people. I was actually a manager at a lumber yard. Joined the military in 2003. Didn't know I was actually a lot older than most of my colleagues. I was 26 years old. Joined the military out of West Michigan. I'm originally from the Grand Rapids area on the west side of Michigan. Decided I didn't like the cold anymore. No, it was just really enjoyed life there. My family's all still there. But again, just felt a greater call to serve, and joined the military in 2003. Went to basic training in Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Then did my medic training in San Antonio, Texas. Joined the military as a medic in the United States Army. Was there a while, a little longer than I thought I was going to be. I ended up getting pneumonia after basic training. Almost died at BAMC down there in San Antonio. Recovered from that, finished my medic training. The day I was in, I love to tell this story. The day I was sitting in the waiting room waiting to be seen when I had pneumonia, I was watching something. It's late at night on the TV, and all of a sudden the news broke in that we had started to bomb Iraq. So at this point, I'm in the middle of training and found out, like, holy cow, we're going to war. And that was kind of the moment it hit me. So it all became real to me at that point. So I was home I finished my medic training, went home, packed up my family, came down to Fort Hood, where I was stationed the entire time I was in. 3 weeks later, I was on a plane to Iraq, as expected. I was there during the initial invasion with the invasion force in the Sunni Triangle. We went in from Kuwait and drove up into we were in a city called Samarra. It's kind of between north of Baghdad, but between Tikrit and Balad. It was about 10 minutes away from where they caught Saddam. Found him hiding in the hole. Served there, did a deployment, came back, was home for about a year, and then went back and did a whole second deployment in Iraq again as a medic. I was our clinic NCOIC, which is just a fancy word to say I was the non-commissioned officer in charge of the clinic there. Oversaw day-to-day operations of taking care of about 1,500 soldiers with our battalion. Also ran medical readiness, so made sure everyone had their shots, and hearing test, eye test, dental was, everybody was ready to always be deployed at any given time to serve when they called us. So did 2 tours with them. Tough tours, but definitely a life-changing experience for me, and exactly why I'd gone in to do what I do. Got out in 2009. So I did 6 years. I love to tell the story that, Fort Hood is the black hole. Anybody that ever served there, once you get there, you never get out again. They just pull you in. I went from a private to a staff sergeant in the same platoon. I never got to leave. I guess they said I was too valuable was their word, but not nice of them. So I got out. Actually, it wasn't a great story. I medically retired in 2009. I tore my Achilles tendon on a run. All the things we did, all the getting shot at, blown up, everything else that happened, I hurt my foot on a run. So got out, decided to use my GI Bill. So I was a student veteran, and that's where the whole journey started. I wear this today, and they're kind enough to allow me to, but I actually got both of my degrees from Texas A&M. Yeah, get out. So they have a campus there near Killeen, and I had started taking classes there when it was still what is the name of that school? It's from Stephenville, Tarleton State University. There we go. There's one of. So technically, I'm also a Tarleton student at one point. So I went to Tarleton and A&M. Yes. So I started there, then it transitioned over to A&M, and then I got my bachelor's in political science and realized that nobody hires people with political science degrees. So I, went on to grad school and got that degree. I worked at Fort Hood. I went back into kind of my old role and facilitated the Fort Hood Suicide Prevention Program, which was a passion of mine. Unfortunately, in the military community, suicide is a thing that happens. It happened when we were deployed. It happens back. But, I don't look at that as a negative. I look at it as an opportunity to help people just, think about the people that do, but think about all the people that don't. And so it was a fulfilling job to be able to do that. So we had talked to almost 1,600 soldiers a week at Fort Hood and do a big presentation, and enjoyed doing that. I also worked for the VA as a contractor, supporting people transitioning out of the military. Again, enjoyed all that work, but it wasn't still quite what I wanted to do. I also didn't want to live in Killeen anymore, anybody that's been there. And so I looked to Austin and thought, there's a big university there. Got the job that Dave is doing now back in 2013. I've been at UT ever since, been 8 years. I had his role for about a year, then the other director left. I took over the office in about 2014. And we built the program from there. And it really is a passion of ours. You'll hear Dave talk about it as well. And I'll introduce him in a minute, but we get an opportunity to impact people's lives every day. And, just like I did as a medic or Dave did as the senior chief in the Navy, being able to make that impact, he'll tell you the stories too. We know these folks, we know their wives, these students, their kids, their stories, their hopes, their fears, and to be able to see that person, we tell them we're about to do an orientation tomorrow morning for some new incoming students. And we say it in every orientation. The thing that gets me out of bed every day, I can promise you, as a state employee, is not the paycheck. It is, seeing those people that we see at orientation, then walking across the stage at graduation, ending up working for businesses that, many of you have run over the years, or, getting out there in the career field, or turning around and serving somebody else. And, in that way, I think we get to continue to pay it forward. And that's really why we do what we do. We love what we do at UT. Some of the things that we offer. So I am technically, my title at the university is Director of Veteran Services. Like I said, we used to be Student Veteran Services. We recently changed our name to Veteran and Military Affiliated Services, because we don't just serve our vets. How many vets do you think we have at UT? Somebody throw out a number. What's that? How many veterans, student veterans, do you think we have at UT? 8,000? How many? 425. Somebody was reading the bio. See, he gets a gold star for reading. I didn't know it was on there. But we are, that is true. Most people think we have a lot. Schools like A&M and stuff, they have a ton of vets. It is, we call ourselves public Ivy League as far as getting in. And, Dave can talk about that a little bit when he comes up, but it's a real challenge getting into UT. We're actually lower than that now. We've just run our new numbers since we, did that publication. We have about 400 veterans on our campus. It's gotten really, really difficult to get into UT, but that also gives us an opportunity to again, have a really personal relationship with each of these students. But we don't just serve the veterans. We actually have around 800 employees who are veterans on campus. We have probably about 1,500 dependents of veterans. So that's either spouses or children of veterans. And we consider them just as important as the veterans themselves. We also serve the entire UT community. We provide training for staff and faculty to help them understand communication, help them understand, the question veterans always get asked first thing, oh, you're in Iraq, did you ever shoot anybody? So it's the first question everyone asks me. I don't know why. Like, let's work on not asking those kind of questions, and or have a better understanding. I'm sorry. There's also a lot of stigma around what veterans are and what they aren't. We have an opportunity to share that with people. We started at UT. We were a very small program. The office opened on Veterans Day, November 11th, 2011. At the time they opened the office, they actually had no idea what we were going to do or why we were even going to do it. They just felt like it was the right thing to do. A lot of people were getting out. The GI Bill, post 9/11 GI Bill had just started in late 2009. And there was a huge influx of veterans moving to college campuses to use their GI Bill. And campuses honestly had no idea how to handle them. Before that, they had the Montgomery and smaller numbers of vets. So it became a thing that as a nation and our colleagues across the nation that we meet with pretty regularly, trying to figure out how to do this better. And I don't know that I still have the answer. I feel like Dave and I joke all the time, I feel like we almost had it figured out and then COVID hit and we had to start all over again, but that's all of us, right? But we started out really as an obscure program, but without much recognition. There's a lot of stigma around Austin too. They assume it's that liberal town over there and they don't care about the military. They don't, and That's actually not true. There's a ton of support for the military at UT Austin. And unfortunately, that's a stigma we've had to overcome with our students who believe that, well, we got to go to A&M because they really care about vets. You know, they just have the Corps of Cadets and all that. We were vindicated, you know, in saying all that and validated in believing that we were better. Last year, just before, I guess a year and a half ago, just before COVID hit, we were ranked nationally as number 6 in the nation for veterans and number 1 in the state of Texas. So sorry, my alma mater at A&M, we were actually rated higher than them in being a veteran friendly school. And I attribute that a lot to the programs we built, the personal relationships we built with our students, the personal relationships we built with our donors who support our students. I'm going to let Dave talk. I don't want to steal his thunder about, because what he does every day is the day-to-day working with our students and hearing their stories. And he's going to give you a few examples of just some of the things we've had to overcome. You know, the other things we provide, we have a relatively small office on campus, but we do have an office that's open full time. We provide a space for our veterans. We have a student org. I'm going to keep whacking this thing. That provides community events. We have a huge tailgate every year. We have military appreciation game. We provide academic support. But then, you know, those are the big level things. I've also gone to advisor meetings with students. I actually had to go to a department head and beg to please let this guy graduate. Like, please, I know he missed it by that much. Can you just find some way to make his grade so he can graduate and his wife doesn't kill him? You know, he says he doesn't have any more DI bill, and it's, you know, that's what we get to do every day, and then see that, and then, you know, see those people down the road, you know, have lunch with that guy who's having an existential crisis. And, you know, the question, why on earth am I here? I'm 35 years old. I got a wife and kids. What am I doing? So out of those 400 veterans, I didn't mention this, that's a 400 out of 55,000 students at UT. You can imagine being a 35-year-old veteran with a big beard and, you know, a lot of life experience under your belt, throwing out a backpack and then go sitting in a classroom with 400 people, you know, a bunch of 18-year-olds, you know, I have a 22-year-old daughter. It's the strangest thing in the world. But just to sit next to students like that, and then try to feel, but then be able to have a conversation with that student and then see them overcome all that and help them work through and then watch them graduate. And the gentleman I'm talking about now, he's special advisor to George P. Bush, the land commissioner, and he started a whole veteran podcast to highlight stories about veterans around the state. And that's when we talk about paying it forward and the generational change that we have an opportunity to make. I say all the time, like, I might wear this and I might have gone to A&M. My allegiance is to veterans first, and my brothers and sisters in uniform, anybody that's worn it understands that. And this is kind of the conduit. This is the opportunity, the platform that I have to be able to do that. But for us, it's always about veterans, and we just really appreciate the opportunity to be here and speak to you all today. You know, we're not asking for anything here, just the opportunity to hear our story and hear what we do at UT. And, you know, hopefully down the road, we can work with folks wherever you happen to be in your business. If you're interested in supporting our students, we can promise you that. You're not, you know, Bryant, and I want to segue into the scholarship that Sherry and Bryant created. The Truitts reached out to us a few years ago, and I don't know how candid I can be with this story, but development reached out and said, you know, Bryant, like, we're talking to this guy, but, you know, he seems frustrated with me. Maybe you can talk to him. and so Brian and I had a really good phone call, and I got to tell him a lot of things I just shared with you. And I made a promise to Bryant. You know, this is about students. We know these people. We know their names. Again, we know their struggles. We know this isn't going to just some big picture thing at UT. Like he always says, to buy volleyballs or blades of grass somewhere. Like, this is going to a human being who's, if we don't give him this money, he's going to be homeless. His kids are going to be on the street. Dave will tell you that you wouldn't think that would happen at UT Austin, but we've had already probably 3 students this semester that we've saved from homelessness. That's a common thing that we deal with. But, you know, in talking to Bryant and Cherry, they just had a passion to serve these students, and they wanted to serve those who served. And through that, we've been able to create the scholarship. We've been able to give it out to, I believe, 5 total students now, because we had 4, 1 left, and we added 1 more. These are students in business. We had a girl, the first class from the Dell Medical School, one of our veterans. She just graduated. She's going to be, she's a doctor, starting the next part of her training. And again, just when you hear the words of the students and how thankful they are and how meaningful those small gifts can be, or big gifts, you know, just every little bit. But you know what's more important to them, I think, when they talk about it, more important than the dollars that we attach to it, is just the fact that somebody cared, that somebody, you know, was willing to sponsor them. That somebody was like, somebody out there in Kerrville, Texas, thought enough like of all this to take care of it. I get emotional. So, you know, that's why I wanted to share with you all today. I'm going to introduce Dave before I turn to a hot mess up here. You know, clearly we do care about this. We're extremely passionate about everything we do. So Dave Lesenberry, he's my right hand. So I met Dave. He came into the office, and Dave's a salty old Navy vet, 26 years, retired as a senior chief. I'll let him tell his story. He tells it far better than I do. Dave started as a student. So I talk about that student that doesn't fit in, that guy. So he was, Dave came here as, again, 26-year Navy, and came here as an undergraduate student at UT Austin. And that was the day I met Dave. And we had put Dave in some positions, my old boss, in a position mentoring other students and guiding them through some things. Dave, I was so impressed with Dave that I actually gave him so Dave inspired me. One day I was in the office, it was like 6:30, it was late, lights are off, everybody's going home. And I came out and I see Dave still sitting there next to a student, helping him. He was a mess, helping the kid figure out his registration because he couldn't figure it out. And Dave just did that out of kindness. And that kind of inspired, we're like, we need a mentoring program. We call it the Dave Mentor Program, because we need to find other students who can guide students like that, because everybody needs somebody to help them in the door. And so Dave ended up, the first iteration of our veteran mentor program, Dave took that over and led that program for a couple of years. Dave graduated, left and became a realtor, and then I poached him back to UT, and the other gentleman in his position left, and I'd always wanted Dave in that position. And it's almost, I always joke that the position was created for Dave. You know, it was even before he got there, and it's just been an incredible professional serving our students. And what's important to me is again, not that we just fill a seat. I don't care about credentials. I don't care about somebody's rank in the military or how many tours they served or anything. It's, do you care about people? Do you have an interest in service? And Dave definitely lives that every day. So without further ado, I will introduce Dave. Shut up. Here.
Thanks for those kind words, Jeremiah. I want to first off start off by letting you guys know that I first became aware of the Rotary Club when I was probably around 16 and was in high school. And you guys have a program where you host, or it's the Rotary Exchange Program, Students Exchange. And so I was always friends with the exchange students because I just thought that was the coolest thing to be in high school. You know, I'm a little bit younger than Jeremiah, so I went to high school, you know, when it was a lot more expensive to travel internationally, and I didn't come from an overly wealthy family. And so by being friends with those students, I was able to kind of broaden my horizons and global view of things. And it was just really because of the Rotary Club that I had that opportunity to engage with those exchange students, because I think every exchange student at my school was part of the Rotary program. So thank you for that program. And that's where you guys, I've realized, have a great program and do good for the communities. As I said, I'm younger than Jeremiah, so I didn't join the Navy until like 1988, somewhere around there. And I went off to boot camp and went to my first ship out in Pearl Harbor. I've had really tough duty assignments. So I had to go to Pearl Harbor for 5 years, and then I went to recruiting duty. They promised me Houston. I'm thinking, yes, I get back to Texas. And I end up in Philadelphia. Okay. Not the highlight of my naval career, but you know, you learn something everywhere you go. And then I went back to, I was gonna go, I said, cool, I get to go to San Diego for my next ship. Well, it got re-home ported out to Hawaii again. So back to Hawaii I go. Then I finally get recruiting in Houston. Then I go out to do hovercraft navigator out in Camp Pendleton, California. And then I ended up, my last gig was at the embassy in Paris for my last 5 years. So pretty decent career, but a variety of things that a lot of military folks don't have that good of an opportunity to do. But I've just always had a knack, mainly from my recruiting days, just interacting with people and kind of explaining, you know, getting them through, you know, at that time it was a high school kid that's going to go do something, you know, in their life, and what's that going to look like. And I was the honest recruiter. So I always told them, you're going to start out cleaning the toilets. And that's the true statement, right? They would all come back, say, you know, you're the only one, I mean, you didn't lie to me. We started out cleaning toilets. I go, I know, that's where we all start out. But over the years, they all would just come back. I mean, 2 years ago, I got a message on Facebook, like, I think you recruited me. You know, she's a nurse now in the Navy. She enlisted out of Philadelphia. So I've always just kind of had that interaction with people. Same thing at UT. When I retired in 2014, I became an undergrad student at UT, and I went into international relations because that's really all I knew. Thought, oh, it's going to be easy. You know, I know it. But I was a 45-year-old student going to school with 18-year-olds. It was tough. Like my career, what I wasn't prepared to do was be a student. And so I struggled. I struggled with time management, how to schedule studying, how to schedule classes, how to schedule keeping, you know, home maintenance up, because I owned a house that I bought. But I did have one benefit that a lot of our students don't have. So I had a retirement check. And so because of my retirement check, I was able to chill out a little bit. And then I did the mentor program. But what I see them time and time again is you have all these students who get out of the military at whatever point, 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, 15 years, you know, why would you get out at 15 years or whatever? That they don't have that luxury of that extra money. And then they would, you know, they struggle. They struggle with not only the academic side of it, because UT is tough academically, but they struggle on the financial side and trying to, you know, raise the 2 kids and the wife, you know, get the wife going. And, you know, it's all with being a student and basically not doing anything. And GI Bill only goes so far, and then it runs out on some people as they're, you know, right at the end of their career. But I work with them and get them through all of that. But there's just so many hardships out there. But we guide them, you know, we try to get them in early, talk to them, and point them in the right direction, at least, you know, what we feel is the right direction. I mean, they make their own choices, but they all do academically really well. Many of them finish up and go on to do better things for the communities and the people. Some of them don't do so well. But those are just bigger problems than we can handle and solve, because, you know, they don't let us know about those. One thing I think our office does is we interact and we bond with all the students. We do a personalized orientation session for every veteran that comes into UT. And that we get to know them one-on-one. We know their stories. We know how many kids they got, how old they are, you know, are they living alone? Are they living with someone? Because all of that matters throughout their educational career, because it's all a burden for them. And it was a burden for me, but I had the resources to get through a lot of it. I think that's just, you know, highlights kind of what we do and what we are. Now I'm going to begin at LBJ School of Public Affairs next month as a graduate student. And so I'm going to be back into working, graduate student, home maintenance, lawn care. And so I'm going to be going back into all the things I've just talked about. But we have that bond with those students. So, and I think I don't know, Jeremiah, what would you say? They all come back eventually and just say, thank you for what you've done. We do the Truett Scholarship is one of the big ones for the graduate students. Graduate students don't hardly get anything from a financial aid perspective. Usually Pell Grants and all that has run out for them. Now we have a guy, Max Wright, he's going through a battle right now with the VA and running out of GI Bill benefits, trying to get on what used to be called vocational rehab. And then, so he's like a semester out of graduating med school and maybe not be able to finish. And those are the horror stories that, it's like, God, all this just to get to the end and not be able to do what you need to do. So, but we try to work through all of that, and a lot of it's through generous donors that, step up and either create a scholarship or find other ways to help out. But that's kind of what we do at UT. I'm happy to be a part of it. I'm glad I can be a part of it. And I'm glad that we make a lot of positive changes in people's lives and that they can go on and serve the community like all of you are still doing. I think that's about it. But I think we'll take some, if anyone has questions.
What are you going to study?
Public affairs, I'm going to make sure that they don't brainwash us all too much.
Too late.
Is it too late?
Too late.
It's never too late.
And we also
Well,
You started teaching old dog new tricks.
We'll let Heather say a couple words. and then-
Yeah, well, thank you all for having us here today. Thank you. I have the privilege to work with these two, and I've been working with Jeremiah for about 3 years. Again, my name's Heather Miller, and I wear the hat of Director of Development for Student Affairs. And I had the privilege of getting to know Bryant and Sherry about 3 years ago, when he wanted to do something for students of character, students who were working their tail off to get their master's degree. And he talked to my companion, Doug Duke, and Doug brought me in and said, well, I think we have the program for you. Our student veterans are exactly that description. They're people of character. They're people who are working really hard, who are non-traditional students. And while they have some benefits coming to them to work on their undergraduate degree, we find that we need to really bridge some gaps for them financially when they start a graduate program. So it's people like the Truitts, and it's people who have been very generous and passionate about helping others and pay it forward. So, and thank you, Austin Dixon, for helping us. We're just very grateful for the friends and the supporters and alumni who are here in the Kerrville area. So thank you.
Yeah.
And
We just wanted to thank, again, Brian and Sherry for everything you've done, and Austin and all the work and the relationship that we've had, and just building relationships with people. We love our students, but we love meeting people who support our students as well, and seeing that passion is it's what motivates us to do what we do every day. So thank you very much for giving you. I guess it's open to questions if anybody has them. Yes, sir.
How many, you ever get students that go back in service? The council to do that? Or?
That's a great question. So we also have, we work with the ROTC and the branch commissioning program. So it's a fancy words for, a lot of times students will be active duty military as an enlisted person. I almost did it myself, and then, long story, but I didn't go that route. And so it's different for each one. The Army has green to gold, Marines have MESEP, there's State 21 in the Navy, and we don't know what the Air Force does. They do their own thing.
They're
Golfing somewhere. Yeah, golf 41. But so the students are released from active, they're technically still on active duty the whole time they're students. They get into the ROTC program. So they're former enlisted. So they might be sergeants in the Army and then come in, finish their degree. It's a really intensive, rigorous program, and they have to do the ROTC program the whole time they're in. But the day they graduate, we're fortunate enough to have a big party and a celebration for one of our Marine vets. Just graduated, gave him his saber, his officer saber as a Marine officer, and he's now headed off to his first duty station as a Marine officer. So,
And a box of crayons.
and a box of crayons. That we hide those when the Marines come in. but they, so, we do have that for all the different branches. And then the day just before they graduate, they have a ceremony, a full commissioning ceremony. It's a really cool thing to see if you ever get a chance. And then they pin on as officers, lieutenants, and head back in, so.
But each service has a different way that they handle those folks, right? So the Marine Corps requires that student who's on their commissioning program to utilize their GI Bill to pay for the college. I mean, they can pay it out of pocket, but so they're using their GI Bill for their undergrad, is where the Navy Seaman Admiral program pays each sailor up to 10 grand per year towards that tuition. So you got some that are having to use their benefit that would maybe pay for a postgraduate degree when they got out or something, but that's now gone because the Marine Corps forced them to use it. But I mean, I say forced, but who's going to pay it out? I mean, who wants to pay it out of pocket when you're trying to also support a family? So.
And I see your hat there. We actually have quite a few, I would say not relative, but we have some coasties. We've had a few go through some programs for them to become officers as well. A few Coast Guard reservists. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You said that you had an orientation program.
Yes, sir.
Does every single military veteran who goes UT have to go through your program?
So we use a little, we play military mind games. We were both NCOs. They don't have to, but we don't ever tell them that. And so what I'd say is we get 100% participation generally.
Well, I think it's great.
Yeah.
I'm not being critical.
Oh, of course.
I don't know about all the things you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the reason we play the mind game.
Yeah.
Is because, so we know, so a veteran, usually part of their application process to any Texas school is, are you a veteran? And so when they check that box, we kind of know as they're coming through the pipeline. We've also recently hired an admissions specialist to kind of help us get our numbers up for veterans. And we'll talk about that in a second, but so we reach out and engage them personally once they've been admitted. And then we invite them to the orientation. It's been a little bit awkward with COVID and everything being on Zoom, but we're doing a hybrid one tomorrow, and then we'll be back to our normal orientation sessions going forward, we hope. But it is we call that the key connection to these veterans, because if you're just one of 400 and you come to UT and you never engage with your community, what we find is that veterans love community. They're mostly A-type personalities, want to do something. They get in there in this sea they get caught up in the academic rigors, and then they can also disappear and fall off. And then we hear about them when, oh, by the way, my wife left me, took the dog, the kids, I owe child support, and I don't have anywhere to live. We talk about small crisis, big crisis, when to talk to us, and all that. We cover all of that.
Right.
Because that saves a lot of veterans.
And without that connection, we wouldn't have that. We really did have, he's joking, it sounds like a country song, but that is a story we hear a lot. We had a student who was on a study abroad program in Russia. He's come back 3 days later, called our office, found out his wife was leaving him, and drained their bank accounts, emptied out their house, took everything, and moved to California. And he's like, I got a plane ticket and what's in my duffel bag? And I don't know where I'm gonna live when I get back. So we were able to work with the donor, donate money to him. He now works for the State Department, the CIA or something. He went to Georgetown for his graduate program and has been really successful. So sometimes, it's like the paths diverge and it could go either way. But fortunately, because of things we're able to do to help students,
Just when we think we've got it figured out, the VA changes the rules.
well, that's another.
So an example, we talked about study abroad. So study abroad has become very difficult for someone using benefits, because now the foreign school almost has to be certified through VA standards for the student to get their GI Bill benefits usable at the foreign school. And we have, it's easier if you're on a degree program that's required to have a study abroad. But if you just want to go do a semester in Hong Kong or China, because that's what you're trying to learn that language as part of what you want to do long term, a lot of times the VA won't pay that. And they don't get the housing, they don't get the tuition paid for. So now you've got a student that's out of school for a semester, but that would be a great opportunity for that student, because they want to go work for the State Department speaking those languages and long term. So there's a shortfall there, but that's all because I don't know if any of y'all are lawyers, but lawyers can, they all have interpretation of rules, and you'll get some that say, actually, what this really means is this. And the next thing you know, the rules changed or the interpretations changed and it's a different enforcement.
Yeah, it'll come as a shock to you, but the VA is finding very creative ways to slowly close the spigot on the money that goes to veterans. They're finding very creative loopholes, and then they're closing said loopholes. And we're finding, we don't even know about it until a student comes in with a letter saying, what is this? Why don't I get money for this anymore? It's like, oh, we call the VA and find out, yeah, that rule changed last week. We never know about it. So it's then it's an emergency situation. Because I love the VA. I'm not, if anybody's affiliated with the VA, don't tell them I said this. In VA healthcare, I think is outstanding, but I've said the greater VA and just the bureaucrats that do it, that do more harm for veterans than good sometimes. It's like we've always said with mentorship, it's better to never have a mentor at all than to have a bad one. And, that happens a lot with the VA. So we had another question, sir, in the back. That's a great question. A segue into talking about the new position that we've created. So Michael Knox, who's the third leg of our stool here, he's not here today. So once a student, Dave grabs them once they get admitted. Knox works with them, and he's a retired first sergeant from the Army. He grabs them the minute they apply to the university. Every single Monday, he gets a report from our admissions office. If a veteran applies, he knows their name, and he's already reached out to them to talk them through the process. So all of our veterans come in as transfer students with few exceptions. I can probably count on two hands how many vets in the 8 years I've been at UT have come in as freshmen. So anybody who went to UT before, I'll tell you, it's a whole different game now. 85 to 90% of our freshman admission is dictated by the top 10% rule. And by top 10% rule, I mean that UT gets the only legislative exception, which is top 6%. So you have to be in the top 6% of your graduating class in Texas public high school to get automatic admissions to UT Austin. And so that drains, there's so many, and somebody was telling me recently, there's a record number of 18-year-olds, I think somebody at the Texas Veteran Commission, in the state right now. Tons of people moving here, coming here from other states. And so we have a large number of students that are getting out of high school that we have to find seats for. And unfortunately, what happens then, if you take that 85 to 90%, then that means you got 10% of the seats, physical seats left on campus for that cohort. And then add out-of-state students, international students, you got about 5% left. And that's why we get, in this particular cohort, how many students are we going to get this fall coming in?
Maybe 50.
Maybe 50 out of the entire, class that's coming in of probably 10 to 15,000 students. We might get 50 veterans. So it's become really hard. So they all mostly come as transfer students. So they don't need an SAT anymore as a transfer student. But we have 4.0s that don't get in. It's been a challenge. So we do a holistic review, which is a good thing. We've advocated for years with the admissions office. We take a stack, we sit down at a restaurant somewhere. We're usually there for 4 or 5 hours. The waitress hates us by then, but we'll sit there and go through every single veteran application, sometimes 300 of them in a cohort. We'll read through their essays, we'll look at their resume, we read their story, and then we make recommendations to admissions. Either highly recommend, or don't recommend, or I'm pretty sure this person's not a veteran. And then we send those over. And then sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, but it's helped us get our numbers up a little, but it's really just stopped the bleeding. It hasn't really started to use a medic term.
Will y'all be here after? Yeah.
It will be here after too. Yeah, if you have other business.
Thank you. Sorry to cut y'all off, but I love veterans and everything, but I'm getting the TikTok from one of my board members. So is Stephanie Miller online, Dave? I didn't see her. I don't have anything from her for Families in Rotary. Does anybody? Yes, sir. St. Peter's service for Tom Murray tomorrow at 10 a.m. and RSVP if y'all are gonna want to go. Mr. Wendling, if you would, our new secretary of the club, introduce our guest, please.
I guess now I know why I got into UT in 1968. I could never get in there today. And I may not want to get in there. Our youngest guest today, my church mate, Andrew Bolton, Scott Bolton's son. Glad you're here. Come back. Before I get started with the rest of our guests, Capitan Jeremiah, did you say it Romack? Romack. If you haven't met him yet, he's our new, he and his wife, she's a major and he's a captain. They're our team that's running Croc now and a Rotarian. And please join with us. Get that picture. President-elect had to leave on an appointment for Shriner University. Martha did. Toby Appleton, please stand, from Shriner University, here with us. The director of Shriner Institute, Shannon DeVille, please stand up. Of course, Major General Walter is there seated with him. They had to be in a long extended meeting here. I'm really glad that you guys joined to see our partners here from UT. And do y'all know that these veterans programs exist in other universities, big and small? Do y'all know that? Like Trinity, Incarnate Word, places like that? I have plenty of stories for you at any rate. What else we got? That's it.
Thank you, Jeff. We had our first board meeting yesterday as with your new board, and I'm gonna ask for your help as a club. Please pay your invoices. I say it and I hear some laughter, but you would not believe the number of over 90 days. It's astonishing. I won't give you the number, but it is holy geez. If we could please look at that, look at your mail, look at your spam, look at something, look at your checkbook, and we'll get that taken care of. I talked to Carolina earlier. Another thing that came up yesterday is we want to start a very aggressive Public Information Officers Act with the club. Morning club is all over the place. Well, we're bigger than the morning club. We need to be more all over the place. So Carolina said she would help. I'm looking at Ashley. You do so much for our social media, but Ashley said to me before she wants to help. She wants to serve. She just don't want to serve on the board. So if you would, I'm asking, you can say no. So it's something is going to big happen here in a minute. So don't hit post yet. But if anybody's interested in helping out with that, those are the two that we talked about yesterday in the board meeting, but working hand in hand so we can do something in the daily times at least twice a month. And also at the very bottom of it, because last week I said we need to get our membership numbers up. We set our goals yesterday. I set my goal to 155 from 138. We want to come up. I would love to get more than that, but every 2 weeks, there'll be something in the paper about membership along with the club and what we do. So thank y'all for that. Rotary trash pickup is going to be on the 24th. That is a week from this Saturday. Same bat time, same bat channel, 7:30 at the at Goat Creek Cutoff with Todd out there. Mark your calendars. Another great thing that we're going to do that I love, Rise Against Hunger. We're going to partner up with Shriner University on the 18th of September. We're going to minimum 14,000 meals that we're going to try to do in partnership with them. Another great thing that they have is their family week that week. So students, families, and Rotarians will all be packing meals for the kiddos, or for the world, actually. I can't say just kiddos. One of the other things that we talked about was foundation giving. President Tammy did a phenomenal job last year. She raised over $51,000 with for foundation. Every Rotarian every year is our goal of $100 per Rotarian, $25 a quarter. And I'm going to start it right here. Gina. I found it in the back corner of the bank. I don't know. So thank you. If that's something that we want to do, the more money we can get for the foundation, the more money that we can give back to our community. So with that, are there any paid announcements? We have numerous letters I've gone over this week already. So next week, we'll go over the letters. We had President Prout did a phenomenal job. We have numerous letters from the volunteer fire departments, letters from children that were all affected by everything that she did in her presidency. But I will get to that next week, I promise you. So with that, we are going to have our wine draw. And Mr. Freeman, are you wearing your Rotary pin?
I am.
Well, come on up and get your wine, sir. Twice the price. Well, then I'll move to your other compadre at the table, Mr. Cunningham. Are you wearing your pin? No. I'm looking back at Rosa. No. All right. I know he is because I'm sitting there looking at him. Dennis, you have your pin on. Come on up, sir. Now, I did say last week what I was going to do because I dropped the ball. So I'm going to give you your choice. You can have 14 hands or a wonderful bottle of Boone's Farm. He's going to go with that one. Well, very well. My last one that I drew the name on is past President Prout. She was up here for 3 years, never got a bottle of wine, so you will get a high school remembrance bottle.
We warn Scott.
All right, our next meeting is next Wednesday. We're going to have Andrew Murr, our state representative, who works for Kelly Early. And he's going to be speaking of legislative updates and everything that's ongoing with us. So look forward to that meeting. And if y'all would, please join me with the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will build goodwill and better friendships? Will be beneficial to all concerned?